everyone, in this video we will be solving a system of equations using substitution method. This is the third part. I will put the link of the first and second part in the description box below. So let's take this first example right here. Now we have some steps to follow in order that we can solve system of equations using substitution method. The first step is to substitute or plug in one of the equations to the other equation and solve for the first variable. To better visually see how substitution works for system of equation, so I actually created a card here. I wrote the equation on these cards. So what are we gonna do here is that if we look at the equation that we have here, y is already isolated by itself. So what I would do is that I will take this y and 3 apart, and then we remember that the y was equal to 3. So I will take this 3 off of the y, and what I would do is I will plug this 3 into the y of the first equation since the y was equal to 3. So again, what I did was it was originally over here. Since y is equal to 3, I will take this 3 off of the y from the second equation and put it to the first equation. We're going to work through this equation in order to solve for x. So then what we did was actually this. So I took this 3 off of here and plugged it into the y. So that if we were to rewrite this equation right here, so this is for step 1. So once we plug it in, this is how the equation is gonna look like. So that would be x squared plus parentheses squared is equal to 9. Again, I took the 3 off of from the second equation and then put it into the y of the first. So the 3 is gonna go here. So then from here, I will have to do the math to solve for x. So then I can go ahead and rewrite this as x squared plus 9 is equal to 9. So then I want to solve for x. So then I subtract 9 from both sides, minus 9. So then we are left with x is equal to 0. That's x squared is equal to 0 because that's x squared right there. So then we go ahead and square root both sides so that we can get rid of the squared. So the squared and the square root is going to get crossed out. So we are left with x is equal to 0. So this is our value for x. Now, once we are done with the first step, we're supposed to move on to the second step. The second step is to solve for the second variable. We have solved for x already. So solve for the second variable by plugging in the values from step 1 to any of the 2 original equations. So I will have to label this part right here as second step. So I will put that in here. So second step here. So what we do is we are going to plug this 0 into any of these 2 equations. Now we cannot plug it into the second equation since it doesn't have any x variable on it. So we are going to use the first equation in order that we can solve for the y since we already have the x. So I let x equals 0. So I wrote it up here, and what I did is I just copied the original equation right there. I put it in here. The trick in plugging in values is to change the variable into a parenthesis before we plug in the value. Since we know that x is 0, so I changed the x into a parenthesis, I squared, and then it's a plus y equals 9. So then from here, I go ahead and write 0 inside the parentheses. So then we go ahead and simplify this as 0 plus y squared is equal to 9. So then we have, we're left with y squared is equal to 9. So then we square root both sides so that we can get rid of the squared. So once we square root both sides, we are left with y is equal to the square root of 9 is 3. So then we go ahead and say that point of intersection between these 2 graphs that we have here would be, that's if the x is 0, then the y is 3. So this is the point of intersection between these 2 graphs. On the side, you will see the graph of these 2 equations right here, and it can be seen that the 2 graphs intersect at one point, which is 0 and 3, and that's the one we actually solved over here. This time, I would encourage you to pause this video and try this problem out on your own, and when you're done, unpause it and check your answer. Okay, so we go over the problem here. The first step in solving problem involving systems of equation is that we substitute or plug in one of the equations to the other equation and solve for the first variable. So what are we going to do here is, as you can see, the x is isolated by itself. So that means we can break this into two parts. And since this is equal to y, I can go ahead and take this and put it into the y of the first. So then our equation would look like this. So what I would do is this one, I take this off of the second equation, and since that is equal to y, I put it into the y of the first. So that this equation would become, so this is step one right here. So this equation would come out x squared plus parentheses squared is equal to 25. And then again, we are putting in 2x plus 5. So I put 2x plus 5 here. So then it's pretty similar to this one right here that on the cards that I have placed right here. So what we do is we are going to use the area model for this so that we can multiply these two binomials. I'm just going to show the work right here. And this would come out to be x squared plus, then I will rewrite this, that would be 4x squared plus this is going to be 20x because you have a 10 and 10, so that would be 20x plus 25, and that is equal to 25. So then we go ahead and make one side equal to 0 by subtracting 25 from both sides. So minus 25 and minus 25. So then we go ahead and cross out the 25 here, and that would be equal to 0. And that is also crossed out. So we're left with combining like terms here, x squared plus 4x would come out. So once we combine these two, x squared plus 4x squared is 5x squared plus 20x is equal to 0. So then what's going to happen is that we are going to factor out 5x. So factor out 5x. So that means we have x plus 4 equals 0. So then we have a minus 4 and minus 4. So we are left with x is equal to negative 4. So these are the two x values. Now we're ready to move on to the second step. The second step is to solve for the second variable by plugging in the values from step 1 to any of the two original equations. Since we already have the x, we're supposed to solve for the y. So we can use, actually, this is step 2 right here. So we can actually use this equation right here, which is y equals 2x plus 5. But we let x is equal to 0. So then we're going to rewrite this. That would be y equals 2x plus 5. Again, the trick is to change this variable x into parentheses before we plug in the 0. So that is y equals 2 parentheses plus 5. So then this is a 0. So we are left with y equals 0 plus 5. So our y is actually 5. So then the first point of intersection between these two equations right there would be 0 and 5. So this is our first point of intersection. To find the second point of intersection, we are supposed to let x is equal to negative 4. So then we use the same equation right there. So y equals 2x plus 5. Then we are going to change the x into parentheses before we plug in the negative 4. So y equals 2 parentheses plus 5. So y equals, this is again negative 4. So this is negative 8 plus 5 would be negative 3. So y equals negative 3. So then we go ahead and say that the second point of intersection is negative 4 and negative 3. So that means these two equations right here that we have right here actually intersect at 2 points. And these are 0, 5, and negative 4, 3. On the side, you will see the graph of these two equations right here. And it can be seen that these two graphs intersect actually at 0, 5, and negative 4, 3. Did you get the same answers as this? Good. Perfect. If you find this video helpful, hit like and subscribe for more math videos. See ya!